Okay. Not even my cat, the next door neighbors.
So I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I said it's not even my cat, it's the next door neighbors.
Oh, really?
It's nice to have a visiting.
I feel
Okay.
very at home by you.
Yeah. I'd like to try on my app, on my iPad. We probably won't be able to.
Just to share your screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just if I can, because then can see people as well. But last time I couldn't get the audio to shut off. Are you going to be managing the meeting?
Yeah, so I'm going to be bringing people in and out, but Zantel will be doing your introduction.
Let's just see. It's probably going to echo, and then I'll have to switch it off. But can you see me there?
Not yet. Okay, there we go.
Give me one sec. Sorry. Yeah, see, it just doesn't give me an option to disconnect.
If you mute the
have
microphone and then just put the volume all the way down.
Yeah, I have actually, but muted it. Let's just see. That might work.
That's better.
Just hold. Oh, no, where is it? Okay, why can't I see? Oh, there you are. There is still a bit of an echo from you. Is there an echo for you there as well? Yeah. It's such a pain. I don't know.
Okay, because it is muted. That's odd.
Yeah, it's muted, but it won't allow me to open the app if I switch the microphone off. And the microphone, that's what I really would like to do in my settings. But microphone. Yeah, see if I do it, then it doesn't allow me to.
My ear. Hi, morning, Colleen.
Sorry. I'm just trying to. Damn it. Chantal, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good, thank you. We're trying again, but I don't think it's going to let me do it without the microphone on again. 2241. No, see, it doesn't. It won't allow me to enter without access to the. Okay, done. Okay. Let's try. Sorry, Zantel, I didn't say hello properly. Hello.
Oh, look at that beautiful cat. Oh, my
It's not even mine. It's the next door neighbors. But it brings my heart away. So I'm happy that it visits. Zantel,
can you hear that in background noise? Like a saw,
No,
can't you?
barely.
Thank you. Because they're going to put in our skirtings today, so they're going to do that the whole time. And I can't let everybody hear it. Okay.
No, I can barely hear it.
Okay, so let me try I've got a share screen. Okay, so let me just get my slides ready. Okay, share screen. Zantel, did you get the proper?
Yes, I received the slides. Ash, I just sent it to you as well now and to Jessica, so we can just email that to all the ladies.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to email it before the session?
Yes, please.
Are you still seeing my slides?
Yes,
Yes.
we're seeing your slide.
Okay, you seeing my slides animate?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just going to go to my video. I just want to wait. There's the video. Let's just see how this sounds to you. Why is my video not playing now? Oh, my word, the video won't play. How peculiar is that? Sure. That's really strange.
But it's not as though it's not playing without sound. It's just not playing.
It's not playing at all. And I checked it before, so it clearly doesn't like this PowerPoint, the format. Damn it.
Do you have the video on YouTube?
Yeah,
Is it a YouTube video?
Yeah, I can find the link. I mean, I've got it embedded in the PowerPoint.
Because if you go to that slide, just minimize your PowerPoint and open YouTube and play it from there.
Yeah, it's such a pain.
Yeah, I know it is. I know, but sometimes the PowerPoint doesn't like some links and.
Well, it's working in the PowerPoint. It's just not working on. I don't like your platform. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's fine. But the last video played, so I don't know why this one wouldn't.
And it's playing in my computer, but it's not when it's open on your platform.
Ash, quickly check on our settings. Isn't there a?
I don't think so.
Now, by the way.
The only thing I know of is yes, you have. When you say share screen, I know you can share with computer sound,
Yeah.
but that's the only thing that you can either share the sound or not.
So what is empathy?
Okay, so it's not playing on yours. I mean, it is
I
playing.
can hear it. I heard it.
Yeah, I hear it now.
It's playing in the thing. Just
try it again. Share your presentation. Try it again.
Okay, so now I'm going to just push play from current slide. You got it there.
We can hear it, but I can't see it.
I can't see
it.
Yeah, we're seeing your face.
So what is empathy?
Okay. Wait. Okay, play. Oh, man. Sorry, guys. See, I hate this happening. Okay, right. Okay, let me go to the slide before. Okay, share screen. Okay, you see my slides now?
Yes.
Okay, let's try it.
The animation is working.
And the video is working.
There it goes.
Okay, good. Okay, I think we can safely say it's working. Is it stopped sharing?
Yes.
Okay. Now sound okay? Wait. You know what I'm actually doing is changing my Wi-Fi. Just give me a second. Let's see if I hope I stay.
I'm quickly going to fetch something. I'll be back now.
Okay.
Ja, meer wat op die werk. Okay, that's right. So if you could, where is it going? Ek weet julle soek wat moet wees met voor. Weet jy wat dit is? Dis nie gewone running iets nie. Ek kan dit sommer net uit wat ons Is it in
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, why are you frozen? Oh, there you are.
You also froze for a second.
I just wanted to get a better Wi-Fi, and then it didn't want to connect. Okay.
Ja, dan kan ek dit sommer nou vir julle altyd op saamtyd tot ons nou besig word. Dis reg.
Happy with your
I can't get to my slides now. Huh? Okay, wait. There we go.
Hi, Gwen. We're just busy testing. See you just now.
Okay, I'm just trying to share just so that I can check the slides. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and I've now got you in my picture, which is quite nice. Okay, Zantel, can we stop and ask, encourage questions as we go along?
Yes, absolutely. They can either WhatsApp us or they can in the chat. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so don't forget, I don't do the WhatsApp, and I might have difficulties seeing the chat as well as present.
No problem. No problem.
Just at any stage, just stop me, or I might even just say, Zantel, are there any questions? Must I use you, or must I use Ashley as my...
Anyone? No problem. You can, ask me.
We'll just tell them to raise their hand, and then I can bring them into the spotlight, and they can chat to you.
Yeah, okay. Either raise the...
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can see when everybody raise their hand.
Yeah, and everybody that's on the call has the ability to raise their hand. I just want to also mention, Pauline, there's a few that's going to be, it's one connection, but it's a boardroom with girls. So there will be 5 girls sitting in a boardroom or whatever. Okay. So, yeah. And also, Ash, bring a few of the boardrooms and some of the people up in the call. So that, okay, cool.
Yeah.
How many have we got joining us, plus minus?
How many there's about between 160 and 180 invites that we sent out. So hopefully, and because you did the previous one, everybody wants to join this one because they just loved it, Pauline. Wow. I had such an amazing feedback from everyone. So yeah.
Oh, that's nice. That's lovely. Can't wait till I can do it in person.
Yes, us too.
Me too.
Yeah. Okay. I'm frozen. I'm going to go get myself some coffee, I think.
Yes, you have to have coffee because it's a coffee date.
Yeah.
It's a coffee date. We have to have coffee.
Yeah. It is an hour and a half, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. So, but if we can intersperse it with questions, that'll be awesome. Cool.
I'll see you just now.
Yeah. How can I stop my camera, or can't I?
No, you can just exit the call and then you can rejoin at 9.
Oh, I'm way too scared to do that. Oh, you can't. So you can't blank your camera.
Okay. No, I can just take you out of the spotlight. I can just take you out and then no one can see you.
Okay, just take me out and you can bring me back when we start, if that's okay.
Cool, I'll do that.
No problem.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ash.
Bye.
Bye. Ash, so in the beginning, it will be you and me and then a few of the other people, and then I introduce her and then you bring her into the spotlight. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll only bring her in once you've introduced her.
Okay.
Bye. See you now.
I'm quickly going to get coffee. Bye.
Yes. Bye.
Good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me? I hope so. Ash, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
If you can hear me, I take it that everybody else can hear me. I want to just give it another 5 minutes or so before we start with Dr. Colleen, because I see we're picking up in numbers now. I also know that there's a few ITEC boardrooms, and I hope all of you has got your coffee together.
I'll bring
Ash, I think, bring a few of our ladies, our ITEC ladies in, please. Oh, look at that. You've got a feast there, Kimberly. ITEC Kimberly, that looks amazing. I am jealous. Hallo julle. Oh, ek is jaloers. Oh my word. If you see my surroundings, we're busy renovating, so I'm sitting outside, I'm freezing, first of all. And second of all, it's just dust everywhere and black bags covering everything. So that looks absolutely amazing. Morning, Jess.
Hi, Robin also made cupcakes. So all the HR girls have also got cupcakes in our office.
You are welcome to take it to the other buildings, I'm sure. Okay, where are we now there's about 50 connections currently, and I know there's a few boardrooms. Okay, well, we don't have the whole morning. So first of all, happy Friday, everyone, and happy Women's Day for Sunday. I don't know about you, but Monday the 9th. I don't know about you, but I'm very thankful that today is Friday and that we've got a public holiday to look out for this coming Monday. I'm really blessed. Okay. So, Dr. Colleen Lightbody is our keynote speaker for today. She did a motivational session for us. When was it? About a month ago. And we were overwhelmed by the feedback that we received from our staff saying that it's the best session ever. And they've learned so much. And I actually had people asking me for her contact details to get her involved per branch, etc. So that's why we decided to open it up for all the ITEC women, because I just think that our brains need some fuel, if I can put it like that. Less wine, more fuel. So I've got the privilege again to introduce her. I don't know who everybody, who attended the first session. So I'm going to just give her background to you guys again, to you girls again, sorry. And, but yeah, first let's have a sip of our coffee for our coffee date. Okay, so Dr. Colleen Lightbody is the owner of Brainwise, and that stands for Mastery Through Neuroscience. Yes, that's big words, but she's definitely got the qualifications to be able to understand mastery through neuroscience. She's also known as the Brain Guru, and she's just an amazing lady with her qualifications. She's got a PhD in philosophy. She's got a master's degree in leadership. She's got a postgraduate diploma in neuro leadership. She's got a BA honors in psychology, and she's a professional certified coach as well. Not that all of that would keep her very busy, If she's bored, or she doesn't like to be bored, because she's an atlas cyclist, she rides almost every day. She's finished hundreds of ultra distance events and races. She runs marathons. She's done triathlons. She's completed 3 Ironman challenges. She's actually climbed the Kilimanjaro and the Everest Base Camp. I mean, that's just crazy. And then I totally understand why her 2 children calls her Lioness Mom. I think that's just amazing. My 2 kids was sick yesterday. I had to take them to doctor and hospital and trying to work. I mean, I didn't even look at my tackies for the past year to try and go have a run. So that's just incredible. Also, I want to share with you that the last session we had, something really stuck with me, and it's still till today. She said, keep your mind where your feet are. and just to be present in the moment where you are. And it's so important. A week before that session, Caitlin, my daughter, and I were driving home from ITEC. She went to the office with me that day. We were driving home and she said, Mom, why are you driving with your GPS on? And I said, my love, there's so many things in my head. I'm thinking of what I'm doing when I'm getting home. Did I take out the food? No, I didn't. So what are we eating tonight? Blah, blah, blah. I need to go through those 4 emails because tomorrow I have these meetings. So my head is so busy that I'm literally going to miss the off-ramp. She's like, but you're driving this road every day. I'm like, yes, I know, but my head is so busy. And she's like, Mom, do you know what I'm thinking of? I'm like, no. She's like, that cloud over there. I mean, how present in the moment is she? And I'm not. So yeah, that for me really stuck. And I really hope that there's something out of this session today, which I know there won't only be one thing, there'll be plenty, but I really hope there's something that sticks with you to remember and to take with you and to actually grow. So yeah, here we go. Thank you. Hi, Colleen. Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great. This is the ITEC ladies, and we are all very excited to hear what you're going to speak to us today about.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be here, and it feels really special that it's a women's event as well. I feel I can almost nuance my language in perhaps slightly different way. Zantel, I don't know if I told you my personal story, because now you do this introduction and it just sounds like I go like, who's that person you're talking about?
You said you told the personal. Just sorry, before we start, everybody, you can WhatsApp me or Ashley, even Jessica. You can ask questions. You can also put it in the chat, or you can just raise your hand. We'll pull you in, and you can just ask her a question. Please feel free. Colleen, you mentioned your story, but that was after the session, so a lot of people already dropped off the call because they have meetings. So I would suggest that you just start with that. I think it's really good to know how this happened.
Well, I mean, the subject I'm talking about is compassion, and it was something that kind of life threw at me rather than me studying or learning about it. So we're going to talk about that today. But also, just when you talk about all the exercise and the marathons and stuff, I never did a stitch of exercise before the age of 40. So it was kind of a late in life thing. So it's never, I'm 55 now, so it's never too late. So, really very passionate about the subject I'm going to talk to you about today, which is really about compassion. And I'm very much going to talk to you about your emotions and related very much to the current circumstances that we are going through, because everybody is going through some kind of grief, some kind of trauma. I'm a professional coach and I'm an executive coach, but I'm not even doing coaching anymore. I'm basically doing trauma. I'm a trauma counselor as well. I'm a grief counselor, and I'm finding that I'm having to do mental wellness and holding people together almost every day now. People aren't setting amazing goals and being strategic about how they're achieving their goals. People are kind of surviving at the moment. So I think this topic is important. And I'm really glad that I'm going to actually get an opportunity to give you a language about what is going on in your brain, what is going on in your heart right now, and some means to manage both, not only yourself, but also the people that you love and the people that you're involved with. And if you're managing people, the people that you working with as well. Okay, so I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm assuming that you are seeing my slides. Okay, excellent, good. So also, as Zantel said, please, I'm a much better presenter if you engage with me. So I can't see the chat, or you've got a WhatsApp group or whatever. But if you've got any questions, Zantel and Ashley will manage those questions and just stop me and ask me as I go along. So if there's something you want to know that's very specific that I haven't mentioned, then please engage with it as we go along. So obviously, my area of expertise is neuroscience, and I'm going to talk a lot about emotions and psychology, and I'm not going to base everything coming back to the neuroscience all the time, because we're going to talk about the real experiences as well. But I do want to start by introducing you to the brain, showing you how the brain works in times of difficulty and times of stress. So kind of when I started, and I think we have sent these slides out to you. When I started sort of putting this talk together, and I wrote the brain in 2021. It was quite a poignant thing for me because I definitely think that how we're experiencing our mind, how we're experiencing our neural processes now has changed profoundly in the last couple of years. So what I just wanted to do, I'm not going to make this too much like a biology lesson, but I'm going to just give you a language so that you can understand kind of more or less what is happening in your brain when you're experiencing trauma, when you're experiencing grief, or even just stress. And I'll also explain to you why we're experiencing such trauma and such grief. Perhaps it may feel to some of you that it may be almost too much. You know, like I had somebody yesterday saying to me with the Durban riots, she said to me, I couldn't stop crying. I just cried and cried and cried and cried. And she says, I never cry. And it was so useful for her to understand exactly what that impact of that phone call when she heard that her family's home was, or business, sorry, was being looted, and the impact it had on her. Just knowing why she had responded in the way she did actually was quite supportive for her. Okay, so let me just get into it. I did introduce the brain a bit in the other talk, but I'll just remind you of a few terms. Prefrontal cortex, right here behind your forehead, part of the brain to do with thinking, rational, reasoning, conscience, and consciousness. Okay, so very important part of the brain, incredibly small, right behind your forehead. I spoke a lot about this in the mindfulness session because of exactly, Zanta, what you were saying. While you're driving in the car, your prefrontal cortex wasn't present, so your GPS was kind of your prefrontal cortex for you there because you were so locked into your subconscious and unconscious processes. Now, clearly, as your daughter very gently pointed out, it's pretty important that we bring our prefrontal cortex into play. And never has it been more important, but never has it been more difficult to actually have our thinking, rational, logical, reasoning brain present at all times. And I'll explain to you why. Okay, so the other part of the brain that I'm going to talk about is the limbic system. This is the instinctive brain, the reactive brain, your survival brain, and interestingly enough, your social brain and emotional brain also hang out here in the limbic system. Now, kind of the prefrontal cortex is just your forehead here. We've got sort of the outer part of the brain that contains our higher functions, like vision, which is here at the back, sensory motor, which is at the top. So those are our high functions. But that outermost part is around about the thickness of the rind of a grapefruit. So it doesn't take up a whole lot of space. The whole of the rest of the brain is this instinctive, reactive, automatic, subconscious and unconscious functioning. So you can start to see already, the limitations that we've got in managing distress, managing difficult circumstances, is that we've got most of the real estate in our brain is dedicated towards reacting to what is going on in the environment. And remember that our brain also has a very strong negativity bias, okay? A very strong negativity bias because your brain is actually not designed to think. It's actually designed to keep you alive. And I don't need to spend a whole lot of attention on the nice juicy berries in the tree, but I need to pay a lot of attention to the saber-toothed tiger because the nice juicy berries are still going to be there the next day, but I'm not going to be there to eat them if the saber-toothed tiger has eaten me. So that is why we've got so much real estate towards survival and why we have a negativity bias in our brain. And I'm not going to keep referencing the other talk, but I spoke on the other talk about mindfulness and how most of our neural meandering and wondering about in our subconscious and unconscious brain is mostly focused on things that are negative because of this negativity bias. Okay, so amygdala, a lot of you will have heard of that, right there between your prefrontal cortex and the rest of the brain, the limbic system. Your amygdala is the part of the brain that's always checking out whether you're okay or not okay. So even as you're sitting, wherever you're sitting right now, your amygdala is actually processing the environment 5 times every second to see that you are safe. Now, remember, it's part of your subconscious brain, so you're not aware of it. So your brain is always saying, is everything okay? Is everything okay? Is everything okay? So if all of a sudden, I don't know, a brick had to come through the window, your attention is immediately going to go to whatever it is that's dangerous. You're not going to go, oh, I wonder what's going on. You're going to be drawn to it. So this amygdala decides, can we engage prefrontal cortex or do we need to engage the limbic system? Okay, talk a little bit more about that. Dorsal anterior cingulate cortex is the part of the brain that processes, that is involved in this decision making of, do we think about this or do we react to it? The insula is another part of the brain, really important here. The insula processes visceral experiences. Your insula is very much involved when you, like intuition, when you're like walking along a road and suddenly you just feel like something's not right. And the next thing there's a mugger or something like that, that it's your insula that is actually perceiving your environment long before you're perceiving it. Nucleus accumbens is a part of the brain to do with habit. And unfortunately, what I'm going to show you now is because our world is negative, because so many negative things are happening, what we're actually creating are habits of negativity, habits of reactivity, habits of defensiveness. And I'll talk a bit about how do we manage that. So I've got the point there that social pain and physical pain. These parts of the brain that I'm talking about and the other parts of the brain are all involved in the experience of physical pain. Okay, so that visceral response that you get when you hurt yourself, any physical pain experience, these parts and some other similar parts light up. Okay, if you cut your arm, stub your toe, the same parts light up when you experience social pain. So when somebody treats you unfairly, when you're left out of that boardroom who got the muffins and everybody else was invited there and you weren't, when you are put down by somebody, but most importantly in terms of today's talk, when we're suffering any kind of social loss or uncertainty, anything that causes us social pain, the same parts of your brain light up as when you experience physical pain. And then just the last part I want to mention is the hippocampus, which is the part of the brain to do with long-term memory. And I'll explain to you why this long-term memory is so important in the processing of trauma and grief. So my question to you is, I want you to think to yourself about I did stop my slides, by the way. What do you experience when you get a big fright? What happens in your body when you get a big fright? I'd love to Zantel, let me ask you.
Yeah, but anybody can raise their hands, please. Then we'll just quickly fill you in. But I would say I get stiff. My back gets stiff.
Yeah, muscles.
Yeah, I'm like ready to fight.
Yeah, that's what you
and
do.
Your heart starts beating.
Your heart starts
beating. Yeah. Tamara?
Yeah?
No, wait, we can't hear you yet.
There we go, just put my mic on. Just quickly, just to go back, if you don't mind, you mentioned us being aware of a mugger approaching us. Is that us attracting something like that, or are we just that aware and we're not aware that we're that aware of things happening to us or in tune?
Okay, so I think there's a whole lot of philosophical nuances to what you've just asked, but I'll talk from a neurological perspective. And intuition is incredibly important. Okay, and I'll talk maybe even a bit about female intuition, because in actual fact, your brain is only consciously processing a tiny amount of data because you've got this tiny prefrontal cortex. So at any one time, you're not. We can't be aware of everything that is happening, but subconsciously and unconsciously, your brain is actually processing millions and billions of bits of data. So somebody goes, you know what? I walked into I jumped off the pavement, and the next thing there was a car that came past. I think it was my great grandmother coming to save me. I'm not saying that your great grandmother didn't save you, but in actual fact, what happens is your body you will have heard sound. You would have felt air pressure change. there would have been a whole massive amount of sensory experiences that you processed without realizing you were processing it. So that instinct or that intuition is actually our brain at work, and that's why we should actually listen to it. It's not just a mystical experience, although that may be true as well. Okay, in terms of us inviting it, okay, without getting into the deep philosophy, I think that we know that the energetic field that we emit is emotionally related, and we attract back to us what it is that we are resonating with. So yes, if I'm resonating with vulnerability and fear, then I'm going to attract something that will respond to that kind of energetic resonance.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah,
sorry,
thanks.
just to add one more thing with the positivity and attracting the right sort of things. After our last session with you, I started a little meditation morning with some of the team members, which we do to start off our morning every morning. It's something that I did as a child, so it was so nice because I haven't done it for years, and it's a really great way to start the day, and then we end off on a nice a short motivational video just to send out positivity and just telling the guys to remember and watch what they say, even if it's in their head.
Yeah,
awesome.
And part of that is that how do you wire your subconscious and unconscious brain? Is you start to wire it with your conscious brain. So, like for example, when a child learns to walk, okay, that child, you'll see it paying such focused, conscious attention, one foot in front of another, etc. But now when you walk, you just walk. So you've hardwired that into your brain. So if I'm saying to myself, I'm stupid, I'm useless, I'm an idiot, the world is terrible, that's what I'm wiring into my brain, and that then becomes my reality. So I love the fact that you're adding, and by the way, you'll see I talk about positive realism, not la la land. Life is just wonderful, and isn't this COVID thing a change in the planet, which is fantastic? It's not. Okay. Good. Okay, so our heart beats fast. We breathe rapid and shallow. You get a fine layer of sweat on your skin. Your body becomes really tense. That is what we experience when at that moment we have a big fright. Because what happens, okay, in that moment when suddenly the snake falls out the ceiling, the attacker, the gun is at the window of our car on William Nicol Drive, or we find out that everybody else has been invited to the muffins and we haven't, in that moment, our amygdala says everything is not okay, in the world, and sends a message down your spinal cord to your adrenal glands to release adrenaline into the system. And what does adrenaline do? Adrenaline makes your heart beat faster so the blood can go to your muscles so that you can be strong enough to fight off the attacker. It makes you breathe rapid and shallow so the oxygen can go to your muscles so that you can run away faster. It makes your stomach clenches because you don't want to be digesting your baked potato while you're running away from the burglar. Okay, the fine layer of sweat cools your muscles. Your body becomes stiff because it's filled with energy in order to be able to fight, flight, or freeze. You guys have heard of that. Okay, so I'm wondering, so this is a wonderful response, by the way, because it's how we stay alive. I'm wandering through the savannah, minding my own business, and all of a sudden a saber-toothed tiger jumps out in front of me. Instantaneously, amygdala powers up the adrenal glands, the adrenaline rises in my system, and I am either able to fight off the tiger, or I run for the trees, or I stand and freeze and hope that the saber-toothed tiger doesn't notice me. So, but it's instantaneous, in a second. I know a lot of you might have been through scary experiences, and you will say to yourself, and I thought I should do this, or I thought I should, or I realized I had to something. But in actual fact, it's a instantaneous survival response, because at the same time that adrenaline is pumped into your system, there's another substance or neurochemical called cortisol. Okay, I think you can all see where I'm going with this. And you know what cortisol is. It's your stress neurochemical. Okay, so, and what cortisol does, it's a neural inhibitor. In other words, it stops your brain from thinking. So in that moment, you don't think, I wonder if I should jump up the tree or fight this tiger off. You instantaneously do whatever it is that is best for your survival. Okay, as a trauma counselor, I've counseled hundreds of victims of violent crime in Johannesburg, and without fail, people go, I don't know why I did that, but when we unpack it, it was the best thing for their survival. Okay, so it's an instantaneous response, but what is happening when you're having that threat response is that your prefrontal cortex literally goes offline, literally stops working, because you don't need to be thinking, you need to be able to survive. Okay. Unfortunately, what is happening in 2020 and 2021 is that we are facing saber-toothed tigers every day of our lives. COVID is a saber-toothed tiger. Am I going to have a job or not is a saber-toothed tiger. Am I going to get sick is a saber-toothed tiger. Am I going to lose a loved one or losing a loved one? All of these, the uncertainty is a massive saber-toothed tiger that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen next year or in 5 years' time. We are facing this, and never mind the fact that we have got all the media, social media. Why do you think you don't buy good news newspapers? It's because of the negativity bias of your brain, is that you're attracted to that negative news. But it's actually too much for our brains to handle. You know, when I was wandering around the savannah, and by the way, your brain hasn't profoundly changed in the last 2,000 years. When I was wandering around the savannah, I was facing one saber-toothed tiger a year. Now we've got hundreds of saber-toothed tigers every day of our lives. And remember what I said about social pain, physical pain? We react in the same way to being treated unfairly. We react in the same way to being left out. We react in the same way to the loss of a loved one. You know what we say? It broke my heart. We use physical pain words to describe emotional and social pain. So we're reacting in the same way as if our life is constantly threatened through these social events. Okay, so I think I gave you, Zantel, I sent this slide. I sent a few of my slides just so that you had this language afterwards. Basically, what's happening is our brain, it's like our brain is under attack, okay, constantly. I just wrote down the neurochemicals that are involved in this whole experience. Once you get bad news or you get a big fright, there's a whole explosion and shift in neurochemicals. Basically, dopamine, which is your excitement, motivation neurochemical, plummets. Okay, you don't need to get excited and motivated for thinking or for planning or for goal setting. You need to get excited and motivated to survive, which is your adrenaline and your cortisol. Okay, our serotonin drops profoundly. Serotonin is your feel good, your mood neurochemical, and oxytocin flies right out the window, because the survival response is actually it actually makes us selfish, pretty much. It pretty much makes us selfish, because my instinct, if we were all in a room together and somebody walked in with an AK-47, okay, none of you are going to stand up and say, take me first. The only time we do that is when our loved one is present, okay? So you will protect your child, protect your loved one, but socially, generally, we are not engaging and looking after and protecting everybody else. We become quite selfish, in actual fact, and it's only our tiny tribe that we then protect. Adrenaline, you know what adrenaline is. I've spoken to you about it. Epinephrine is just how it's converted in the brain, and then of course cortisol, the neurochemical of stress that stops you from thinking. So what I'd like to just hear is, what is your saber-toothed tiger of 2021 or 2020? What is it? What are the stresses? Just so that I can actually get a sense of, I can get a sense of what I'm actually talking to. What is causing you pain or trauma? If anyone wants to share, I don't know, Zantel, if there's a chat.
I'll go first. I always go first. I'll go first. I would say something that really, yes, like you say, we've got 100 per day. So, yeah, the job's stressful. Yeah, we're overwhelmed. Yeah, this, yeah, that. But for the past month, it's really like I lost both my parents. So I don't have parents anymore. I lost my mom when I was very young, lost my dad in 2015. So that I've dealt with that pain and I know how it feels. But currently on Facebook, anyway, friends from school, just acquaintances, close people to my heart, in my family, they're losing their parents and grandparents. And I realize how it is for a kid not to have a grandma and grandpa, and how important it actually is for you to look up to and talk to and hear the stories and how life was then, etc. It's really something, it's a big thing for me emotionally. I am horrified. Yesterday I was with my kid at the hospital because he's not well. And this lady in the bathroom came to me. She's like, I just lost my uncle. And I'm thinking, if I had to lose one of my uncles now, I would not. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'll pray for you. But it's like her kids is not having an uncle. It's for me is something really hard to deal with now. And sorry, I talk a lot, but I read an article that said that no matter what happens in your life, whatever, your time is your time. That line, that date is that when you were born, that date you're gonna pass away one day. So whether it's COVID, whether it's a car crash, whether it's whatever, that your line has been drawn in the sand. But it's just so hard to think that there's so many parents and grandparents whose lines are just coming up, and people losing. Oh no, that's my big.
What's happening is, as you even expressing yourself, your heart's starting to beat. You start, and just thinking about it, Zantel, is creating the same biological response and neurological response in you. So what's happening is, even articulating it, you are starting to pump out the adrenaline, pump out the cortisol.
Yeah, I can feel it. I'm so hot. I'm gonna
and they call it secondary traumatization. But I don't know, that's a bit of a misnomer, because it's actually you experiencing trauma in the moment that you're actually even talking about other people's trauma, because it's triggering your pain, your rawness that you have already. So I saw a couple of other comments there. Job security.
Tanita also. Tanita's hands raised.
Yeah. Uncertainty, loss. Tanita? Okay, we can't hear.
You guys are on mute.
Sorry. So we're all in a room as well. So it was actually me raising it. So I think that the trauma is not really mine, but it is. I've got small children, and the effects of this environment and the current state to my children and the environment and the responsibilities on parents to manage and navigate that is really something that's causing me concern.
And also, Tanita, what's important about what you must think with your children is that that there's nothing more important in your life than your child. So whatever pain your child is experiencing, or even the pain that the child might experience later because of what's going on right now, you're experiencing it all the time. And so it's vicarious trauma, but it's extrapolated massively when it's a loved one that you perceive as experiencing trauma. So no, don't underestimate the impact of just worrying about your kids. Okay. So, and I promise you, I'm not going to stay in drama for a whole long time. But it's good. It's very important for us to have this conversation, and it's very important for us to understand what is going on. So basically, thanks, Tanita, these saber-toothed tigers are worry about our families, worry about our own well-being, hospitalizations, losses, economic uncertainty, not being able to travel, overworked, under-resourced. So basically, COVID saber-toothed tigers are around us constantly, and we are having to battle those saber-toothed tigers all the time. Okay, so what I've given you as well is the Kubler-Ross stages of grief. There's debate about whether the stages apply or not, but I'm going to show you about a little bit deeper about the stages of grief. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote the stages of grief about people going through the end of life, okay, and people that were dying of cancer, etc. And this is the study that she did, that these were the experiences that a person went through. Now, basically, what is grief? Grief is loss. And what are we doing currently is we are experiencing a grief state to one degree or the other. And remember, grief is about the loss of attachment, okay? It's the breaking of attachment when you get divorced. It can be the loss of a job. It can be the loss of a pet. It can be betrayal by a loved one. It can be experiencing infertility. It can be childhood uncertainty or distress, okay? All of these things are the breaking of attachment, and that creates a grief process. So basically what happens, you're going along, okay, everything's stable, and suddenly you hear the news, okay, and there's that immediate immobilization. That's almost like the absolute second where your reactive brain is kicking into action. I don't know if any of you, and this is why the hippocampus, the long-term memory, is so important. If any of you have ever had bad news, okay, unfortunately, you will remember that moment with clarity beyond clarity for the rest of your life. Because what happens in that moment is your prefrontal cortex disconnects, and the entire memory of the event is burnt into your hippocampus, your long-term memory. That's why those traumatic events we can never get them out of our brain. I know they're doing a lot of work with psychedelics at the moment, very good work, to be able to support people who are really immobilized by past traumas. Anyway, so we go into this immobilized state.
Colleen, sorry, I just quickly want to mention something. I don't know whether Jessica's going to like this or not. She had to quickly jump off the call. And I just want everybody, we are all women now together, and we feel in our hearts that we're a part of this ITEC family. So please, can you think of Jessica? She just heard that our grandma had a stroke. So please just think of her. She's going to be off the call. So, whatever, pray for her, whatever you feel you can do. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. And I think that's really my main aim today, is to give us a language that we can firstly understand ourselves and that we can support other people. So I'm going to talk a lot about that. Thanks, Chantal.
Thank you, Chantal.
How real it is and how present it is. Sure. Okay, so we go immediately. It's that immobilization. I kind of I'm feeling it of my whole body right now, Chantal, just hearing that. We go into a denial process that I have seen denial so strong. You know that feeling like this can't be, this it's impossible, and you almost rework what if any of you've had a trauma, had an accident, and you go over and over and over it in your brain, those flashbacks, and that it's actually a part of your brain almost reprocessing, and there's a part of you that goes almost tries to unwind it. It's the weirdest process if you've been through a trauma. I've seen denial so strong. I had a couple they were driving down a sand road with a bakkie. Their daughter was on the back, and the bakkie overturned, and the daughter was killed. It was horrific. They're a very strong Christian couple, and I promise you, for about 2 weeks, they were absolutely 100% convinced that their daughter would be resurrected. It was impossible for them to actually accept. It was just too traumatic. I mean, people die, of broken hearts. There's a thing called broken heart syndrome, where people actually die of a broken heart. The anger is kind of it's a resistance, but it's part of the brain's instinctive reactive response. I have a sentence that I say, and I always say, anger is sadness turned inside out. So in actual fact, it's an inability to actually feel the sad, so we express it as anger. The bargaining, God, just bring the person back, or I promise you I'll be good, or, there's that bargaining phase. The depression is then that depletion of our resources. Now we've the exhaustion that comes after grief or traumatic event. Finally, in terms of moving towards so-called healthy grief, adaptive processing is we're moving to acceptance. If you look at this graph, what I want you to understand, though, is it's not, and I actually created another picture for you, because it's not actually a linear process. It's more like a spiral. We go in and out, in and out, and in and out. But we do need to move through the process. Okay, if we don't move through the process, we get stuck. If you look at these words that I'm using here, what happened when we first heard about COVID? Initially, there was this wait, it can't be coming here. It's in China. is it going to impact us? Isn't it? It's like everyone was sitting sort of watching. And I don't know if you remember the first lockdown. Most people had a ball. They absolutely loved it. They were on Zoom parties and, cleaning up cupboards and doing all kinds of, it was like this, almost like an unreal existence, that denial, immobilization. Towards the end of last year, people got angry. I think people are still angry. People are still depressed, okay? And we kind of, because there's no end to this loss and they keep coming at us, we kind of stuck in these processes. So this is what I did, is I created and I've given it to you on a thing so you can have it afterwards. I want to show you that it's a cycling process, and we go in and out. There's no linear part to this, and these are all kind of experiences that we experience. And I'll show you later. What I'm actually trying to do is give you a language for what it is that you're feeling, or if you're a loved one, or if your kids are experiencing any of these things. Here's a language for you to understand it, and I'll show you how that can be so useful. Okay, Tamara's sending it. Okay, so basically, we talk about being stuck in the cycle as being maladaptive. It is often called complicated grief, and that's marked by when you see people just going in the same emotional processes over and over again, or getting stuck in one of these stages, or even going back to worse than they were before. In terms of moving forward, and this is not, you don't get over grief, okay? You don't get over trauma. You go through it, okay? You work through it. And I mean, even as Zantel was showing us earlier, trauma is not actually what happens to us. It's the processing that we do about what happens to us that is traumatic. And that goes on and on and on throughout our lifetimes. But so when I say moving on, I don't mean to say, okay, now it's time to move on. There's a process and that. But when we need to get to a place which is adaptive, which is recovery, and which is healing. And I'm going to talk to you about that today. It's about finding growth, meaning, and purpose. And I'm going to teach you, and it's not the La La Land, the dolphins are now floating up the Venice canals and the planet is doing a reset. It's none of those. Oh, there's meaning in this. I'm not saying that, but I'm showing you how we can, in the present moment, in whatever it is you're going through, no matter how difficult, we can seek growth, meaning, and purpose. And it helps us, it becomes an anchor whereby we actually can start to navigate through grief. I'm going to talk more about this language, but I first want to talk to you and introduce you to compassion and the whole concept of compassion. I think I'm going to take it into a deeper meaning than what you might have experienced before. So I've created this kind of model for compassion. Zantel, please just interrupt me if there is a question or something that you need me to address at any stage. Okay, so if everyone's okay, we'll start to talk about this. So basically, we can start with the level of being not even on the graph, where somebody is going through something and we just ignore or invalidate them. Okay, one step up from that, but we're still not in a great place, is feeling pity for somebody. So when we pity somebody, this is where we feel sorry for them. It's better than invalidating, which I'm going to talk a lot about, but it's still very low on the graph, and it's quite a passive space. This is where, during lockdown, the beggar that slept outside in the drain pipe outside my house, where everybody in my complex used to put little things on the WhatsApp chat going, don't you feel so sorry for that guy? Isn't it terrible? Okay, they were right. They were there, sort of right at the bottom of the graph. A next step up is sympathy. This is where we understand the person's feelings and we care about them. A step up from that is empathy, okay? And that's where I understand and I share your feelings and I will help you out. So it's rich, it's beautiful, and it's more proactive than pity and sympathy. It's a whole lot better than ignoring and invalidation. But I'm going to talk to you about a step that we can go even further.
Colleen, your screen is not sharing currently. I don't know if you wanted it to share or not, but we can't see your screen. We're looking at you.
Oh, sorry. Okay, it says
You are
to me,
beautiful, but we want to see that graph as well.
okay, it said to me that I must screen sharing.
What's happening then to me?
No, I can see.
Okay, now if you can see it, then it's fine. Then it's just not me. Then it's fine.
Okay, so you see my graph.
Everybody can see it.
Pity, sympathy.
Yes.
Zental, you've got that picture. I did give you this picture, so you can have
It's back. It was only me. It's back.
Okay, cool. So empathy is a beautiful thing. But what I'm actually going to, we actually, everyone says, oh, you must have empathy in that. But I'm going to show you a step above empathy, because empathy can be exhausting, and we can suffer from empathy fatigue. I'm sure a lot of you are suffering from that, especially those of you, and I'll say the differences between men and women, but those of you who are strong empaths, okay, I have to do so much coaching work for people who are strong empaths, because they get shattered when we're going through these times, these really difficult, it's just actually too much for their brains to handle, because until, like, you are an empath, and every time somebody else makes a loss, you're experiencing it as a complete trauma because of the empathy that you have. Okay, so I'll support you to go a step above this. I've got a lovely little video. Hold thumbs, and just stop me if it doesn't work. You guys, I'm sure, know Brené Brown. If you don't, you should. So I've got a video about empathy.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
Okay. Isn't she wonderful? Okay, so I said to you, however, that empathy can be exhausting, and many of us suffering from empathy fatigue right now. So I'd like to introduce you to compassion, and what kind of my version of how we can actually be much more powerful, much more effective, but also help our own resilience and not be worn out by feeling other people's feelings. So what is compassion? And I like to use the example of a hospice care worker. So a hospice care worker, if you think about it, is caring for people who who are at end of life, who are going to die. There's not going to be a good outcome, okay? And they have the most unbelievable compassion. And what compassion really means is the ability to understand and share feelings, but to be there to support that person to manage the process and not to take it on. That's the difference from compassion and empathy. Empathy can be much stronger into the rescuing side because we feel it so much, so we want to help and we want to do something. What compassion does is also experiences the feeling, but is a profound and solid space which allows that person or respects that this is that person's journey. This is what they are going through. It's their experience. And I can really care for you, but I can also be strong enough to support you to navigate this experience in the way that you need to navigate it, as opposed to me taking it on. I do a lot of work with leaders with this concept because the leaders are saying, it's so terrible what our people are going through. I feel so much for them, and how can I still ask them to do a job? And it's when we bring compassion, we can help a person be empowered. We can help a person navigate these difficult experiences, but we don't need to invalidate it, ignore it, or not deal with it, and nor do we need to take it on. So I'm going to teach you the techniques about how do we do that. But this is what I mean by compassion. It's a much, it's a more powerful and more empowering place for both the person that is experiencing the loss, the grief, the trauma, as well as for the person who's supporting the person who's feeling loss or grief or trauma. So basically, this is, and I gave you this list because I thought it might be useful just for you to remember and what it is and why compassion is unbelievably powerful. It truly is the ability to see clearly into the nature of suffering. So now here's the interesting thing. This word compassion comes from the Latin word pati, which means to suffer, and com, which means together. So isn't that beautiful? So it's the togetherness of suffering, but and I'm going to talk a lot about this. It's about the acceptance that suffering exists. It's a Buddhist philosophy is the nature of human life is that we suffer, and yet we spend our entire life trying to deny it and not suffer, but it's there. It's the ability and desire to transform suffering, not to take it on, not to fix it, not to ignore it, but to actually so we're going to suffer. You're going to go through these difficult experiences. So how can we allow it to grow us? How can we engage with it in a way that is functional for us or for the person who's suffering? We cannot be attached to the outcome. Okay. Unfortunately, it's easy to say, don't be attached to your child being happy, but I'm a much more powerful mother to my daughter when I understand that the difficult experiences that she is going through, I can't prevent. And her life journey is her life journey, and I can't stop that life journey from happening. I can be there as what I call the sacred space for her to experience the difficult experiences that she's experiencing, but I can't fix them and make sure that she's okay. Okay, it's a renewable resource. This is why I say we suffer more from empathy fatigue, but compassion is an interesting process because you'll find it actually makes you much stronger and more powerful and more effective. It's seen to develop resilience, enhance your immune system when you're showing compassion for others. I think this is important to know. It's not leniency, but it's humanity. And sometimes even like if a mother tells her child that she cannot have a tantrum in the Pick and Pay, okay, and takes the child out and says, we won't go to the Pick and Pay until you can learn to obey yourself. That's compassion, okay? It's putting in boundaries. When you put in boundaries for yourself, that's being compassionate towards yourself, but it's actually being compassionate to other people as well, okay? So having boundaries and the ability to say no can actually be empowering for the other person in actual fact, as well as for yourself. The smallest act of compassion, and I mean, there's various ways to show compassion. There's a strong question in the literature about, are women naturally more compassionate than men? And the research is actually interesting because it's not women don't have more compassion than men. Women show compassionate, different kinds of compassionate acts. So men are often much more aggressively compassionate, whereas a woman is more nurturingly, if there's such a word, compassionate. But even it's not having to rescue. It's not having to be there for the person. And a lot of men find that difficult to have those emotional conversations, to sit with the discomfort of somebody else. And it's also socialized, by the way. Boys mustn't cry, whereas the woman must look after. So it's often socialized that men are perceived as having less compassion. But sometimes you can actually see in the acts that a male does that it's actually an act of kindness and compassion. By the way, trying to fix things. Okay, that's their way of showing compassion. It can be learned. Okay, that's my job. I teach people how to learn compassion. I had to learn it as well. Zantel, what you were saying is you're feeling other people's pain. Okay, people that have never suffered don't understand compassion. People that haven't been through grief and traumatic experiences don't understand what other people are going through with grief and traumatic experiences. So in actual fact, our grief and suffering actually enables us to be much more compassionate. So now my whole job has been in trauma counseling, addiction counseling, grief counseling. And when I was, for 25 years, what I did is I was trying to rescue people. I was trying to fix it for them because I couldn't bear to see other people's pain because of the pain I had gone through. So I was there for 25 years trying to fix it until I learned about compassion. And now I'm so much more powerful as a support system, as a coach, as a counselor, because now instead of trying to fix it, I create the sacred space where a person can navigate their experience themselves without me having to take that experience away. Okay. Inertia, doing nothing, and pity are the enemies of compassion. Okay, so how do we do this? Let's go into that, but I'm just going to pause and see if anyone's got a comment or a question that they would like to ask. Anyone got a comment or a question? I hope I haven't bored you all with, bored you into silence or shocked you into silence.
Definitely not bored at all. If anyone have a question, please either WhatsApp or chat, put it in the chat box.
Or raise
My
your
brain
hand.
is doing this. Yeah, there's a lot to. No one.
Okay. You want to learn how now? Okay. How do we do this? Okay. Okay. Well, just stop me if there's a question that comes up. Okay. So what I've done is I've used the metaphor. Sorry, let me just share my screen again. Don't you love I found this app that made me a superhero. I thought it was so cool. You can get that app. I would advise you to. So I'm using the metaphor of a labyrinth for any traumatic or difficult experience that we go through. And the reason that I use the labyrinth, what I'd encourage you to do is actually print this picture out of the labyrinth and take your pencil and work your way through it. Because the interesting thing about the labyrinth, it's not a maze. Okay, a maze is designed to trap you, to trick you, to not get you to move smoothly through the maze itself, as opposed to a labyrinth. So I call this navigating the labyrinth of life and loss. Okay, and I find an incredibly useful metaphor because basically, in order to experience the labyrinth, you've got to go through it. Okay, you have to. You can't jump into the center. You've got to start at the beginning and you've got to work your way through. And what happens with the labyrinth? It's so interesting because you've got to go from the entrance, you go to the center, and then you have to come out. Okay, it's a good metaphor because basically what happens at times you are closer to the center, and at times you are further away. So you're going into different phases of that grief experience at all times, sometimes more intensely and sometimes less intensely. You can't see the path ahead. So you can't see what's ahead and what's next. And you just have to trust the path. A lot of the grief work I do is about just be with the grief. Do the grief. You can't You can't move past it. You can't skip parts of it. Okay. And that's why I think the labyrinth is appropriate. The other part of the labyrinth is these twists and turns. So you're moving in and out, but you need to just put one foot in front of another. You can't navigate that part of the labyrinth while you're here. You have to navigate it one step at a time. So the 3 techniques I've got is to accept, integrate, and find meaning and purpose. Okay, and I'll talk about these 3 things. And I'm going to stop my sharing. Okay, actually no, I'm going to show you the accept one first. So basically, we need to accept what the emotions are that we are experiencing. So if you had to, I'm stopping my slide intentionally. If you had to think about your life, okay, as a graph that goes up and down, sometimes terrible things happen, wonderful things happen. We have difficult experiences, we have fabulous experiences, okay? That's what life is like, isn't it? You know, whether you like it or not. Okay, I know people that have got graphs like this. Mine happens to be a little bit like that, okay? And at the moment, I think all of our lives are like that. For some bizarre reason, okay, we've decided that we must stay above the middle line of that graph, okay? And the bottom part of it is not good for some bizarre reason, because it is what it is. That is what life is like. Now, if I had to ask you a question, if that graph was your life, okay, where have you had your greatest learning experiences? At the bottom, exactly. Sometimes people say at the top can be good for it. We don't in the good times are a relief, okay, but we don't find courage, resilience, resourcefulness. We don't build character in the good times. We do it in the tough times, and they're kind of inevitable. We cannot live above the horizontal line. Okay. And, you know, first of all, I'm not saying medication's bad. We have clinical depression, chronic anxiety, sometimes it really is beneficial to have medication, but sometimes it can put us in a band, which I call the Prozac zone, kind of in the middle of that graph, because that's where we should be. When I got divorced, I cried for 3 years. I didn't cry for my ex-husband, but I cried for the fact that I love being married, okay? And I cried, and everybody used to say to me, go and get medication. And I used to say, no, I'm just sad. That's all. That's a good thing. If I wasn't sad, that would say a whole lot about me. And I navigated my way through the sad. We've also created a whole industry, and half of those books behind me are proof of it, of the search for meaning, the search for happiness, how to live in, you know, we've created this whole industry that says we've got to be above the horizontal line, but it's not what life is like. So one of the most important things we need to do is accept that suffering is, because just accepting it often relieves us of the pain that we experience from the suffering. And it doesn't take it away. I'm not saying it doesn't away, but it is what it is. It's our resistance to the pain that actually causes us more pain. There's a lot of evidence. I don't know if I spoke about pain management, like physical pain management or chronic pain management with the mindfulness, but there's so much evidence that when we pay mindful attention to any physical pain, whether it's a headache, whether it's a cut on your arm, when you pay mindful attention to that pain, it actually alleviates the pain, as opposed to what are we doing? We're trying to ignore it. It shouldn't be. We should go away. No. We're getting caught into this whole narrative of what shouldn't be, but it is. So it's actually insane to ask it not to be. The other thing that we need to do is validate. Okay, so we spend our entire lives. It's part of our culture. It's part of our conditioned experiences. We spend our entire lives invalidating our own and other people's emotions. And you tell me none of you have said to your kids, don't worry, don't get upset, don't be afraid, don't be angry. Okay? Let me ask you something. In the entire history of the universe, has anybody ever said to you, don't worry, and all of a sudden, miraculously, worry disappears? Okay? It's crazy. But one of the reasons that we say we invalidate people's emotional states is because, especially if you're an empath, because it causes you pain. Okay? if we're going to start by accepting the journey, accepting what is, the next step is to validate what is. So as a trauma coach, whatever, I had a person come to see me. She had had a terrible accident. She broke her spine. She was able to walk after a lot of physical pain, a lot of rehab, and she was eventually able to walk, but she wasn't able to do sports anymore, and she was very, very sporty. And she came to see me because it was 3 years later, she couldn't move on. And she said to me, my husband keeps saying he wants his old wife back. I can't say anything to my parents because they worry about me. My friends keep saying, at least you can walk. She was told how she shouldn't be feeling how she felt all the time. And I just said to her, I said, you are stuck in grief. You're grieving for what you've lost. You're grieving for what is and what's happened. You are still in a traumatic space. And she just burst into tears because it was the first time that somebody had told her to stop feeling the way she was feeling. So I had another client who came to me, and he'd had a son late in life, and he just wanted to be the best dad. And he says he doesn't know how to manage his son's night terrors. So I said, well, what do you say to your son when he has a nightmare or comes into your room? Because he kept coming into his room with terrified. He said, no, tell him, don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. I promise you it's okay. And I said, can you see what you're doing? You're actually invalidating the child's fears. Do you think the fear is going to disappear just because you tell him not to be fearful? So what he started doing with the son is he started saying, I see you're scared. Come, let's stand on the bed. Let's get brave. Let's be big bears. And let's scare the fear away with the monster, whatever it was causing these night terrors. It took 2 nights. The child didn't have any fear anymore because the parent was strong enough to be able to accept the child's negative emotional experience. So we need to, when you lose somebody and everyone goes, it's my worst. Don't worry, they're in a better place. I always want to say, how do you know? Have you been there? It's not time. It'll take a year. Okay. Time is not it's an element of grief and trauma. It's not a condolence. So please don't ever say it'll take a year or, it's for the best and there's a reason. Oh my word. That's not, I know there's a reason. There is a reason. There is, but don't say it because it invalidates what the person is feeling emotionally. Say, I see you're sad. It seems that you're angry. Or even better, what is it that you're feeling? Share it with me. Try to give words. I've actually got I'll show you, I've got a nice quote about words, giving words to emotions. Not only do we invalidate other people's emotions, we invalidate our own. It's part of our culture, unfortunately, our conditioned experience. You say to yourself, I shouldn't feel sad. I shouldn't get angry. I mustn't get upset. I promise you the most powerful thing that you can do, it'll change your life, is that when you feel an emotion, go, oh, curious. I wonder what this emotion is. Where am I feeling it in my body? What is the experience I'm having? Because emotions are messengers from your psyche to act in actual fact. If you had no emotions, you would have no motivation. You wouldn't be able to make decisions. You wouldn't be able to choose which clothes you wanted to wear. Every single act we do is driven by emotions. So emotions aren't bad, but we try to tap them away, ignore them, pretend that they don't exist. Go into the emotion. They'll write it on my gravestone. Sad is not bad. It's just sad. Okay. And it's an inevitable part of life. So allow yourself to acknowledge, to validate, and even get a language for your emotions, for yourself, as well as for people that you love. I think there's a bit of audio coming through. Okay.
We're just adding a few other ladies to the spotlight just so that you look at other faces as well. So everybody, if you can just put yourselves on mute and just camera on so that we can see.
It's nice to see the muffins. No, I'm joking.
But I have to say, Colleen, that sad is not bad. It is just sad. It is. Yeah. It's really good how you say that. Yeah. I love it.
Sad is not bad. It's just sad. Okay. Don't negate emotions. Okay. They're there. They exist. We are emotional beings. So be present with your emotions. And you will find that then you can work and navigate through them. much better, or with them. Oh wait, so I've got to find. Sorry, let me just share my screen again. Okay, so I'm very passionate about this subject. I think it's. I love my mom, but she's British mother, so you can imagine. I was brought up my entire life. Colleen, don't be sad, don't get upset, don't be naughty, don't be angry, and I was messy and angry and sad, and I'm a deeply emotional person, and I was told how not to be my entire life. And it took that's why I do the work I do, is because I had to work at this stuff so hard. The other thing I do as a coach or as a trauma counselor is normalize. I don't care what you're feeling. When I say I don't care, whatever you're feeling, it's your feeling. So that's the technique, is that when somebody is feeling something, when I just say, absolutely, you're feeling like that. Like the girl whose business was attacked, her family business was attacked in Durban. She was invalidating. I don't know why. I don't get upset usually. And it's not that bad. It's not like anybody died. She kept invalidating. And I kept saying to her, no, it's absolutely normal that you are feeling this. And just by normalizing it, kind of alleviates the person's emotional state. I'm just thinking of the bare witness to emotions is, I don't know if any of you've lost somebody that you love, and everybody brings casseroles for the first week, and then you don't see anybody, okay? Because people find it too painful to be in your presence, or people move on with their lives, or whatever it is. But be the witness, be the person that creates that sacred space, and allow yourself to witness that other person's grief. When I was in matric, my brother went missing in the Okavango swamps. It was unspeakably traumatic, in the middle of the biggest drought Botswana had ever had. And they made me go to school to write my prelim exams. Can you imagine it? So for 5 days, Martin was missing. And I remember sitting next to the tennis courts at the school alone. Nobody came near me because nobody knew how to actually, never mind validate, but even just be there, present with me, except for one teacher that eventually came and sat by me. And that teacher is my closest friend to this day. She's still my friend because she bore witness and allowed me to feel the feelings that I felt. My brother was eventually found, but he passed away a while later. And again, that experience of people just don't want to talk about it. There's my quote. Give sorrow words, the grief that does not speak, whispers the oath heart and bids it break. So that's my first technique. The second is that accept, which is witness, validate, normalize, and then integrate. And when I say integrate, you are not your grief, okay? But your grief becomes a part of you, okay? And it's a process by which we eventually adapt to who we've become through the grief process, okay? So pushing it away, trying to make it not accepted is actually, it's always there, but we don't allow it to become part of us. Connection, remember what I said, is social pain and physical pain. The best thing for a person is another person, and the worst thing for a person is another person. So be the witness, connect with people, be part of their experience. That social connection, when we are, and physically, if only, but physical presence with other people, we emit that neurochemical called oxytocin. Oxytocin is mostly given off between a breastfeeding mother and her baby. Women do have more oxytocin than men. And what oxytocin does is it regulates the adrenal system. Oxytocin builds neural pathways, allows us to reconnect our connections in our brain. And then, of course, empowering is both you empowering others through showing compassion, but it's also allowing yourself to be empowered through the experience. I do not wish difficulties on my daughter, but I always say, Abigail, you have suffered more trauma in your life than any person, any young girl your age. But guess what? It has made her courageous. It has made her resilient. It has made her wise. It has made her compassionate. And by being the sacred space for her to have her difficult experiences, not to have to rescue her or be overwhelmed myself by her difficult experiences, it's empowered her to become a much more powerful and better version of herself. Do something. Thich Nhat Hanh, one of my favorite philosophers, compassion is a verb. Go and do it. And then lastly, finding meaning and purpose. So this does not have to be, it's, like I said, all for a purpose and there's a reason. But if there is no meaning ever out of something terrible that happens, okay, and there's no reconnection to purpose, people get stuck in maladaptive grief. So even just moments of purpose, moments of meaning. So on the left-hand side, I've actually, my husband's best friend, he actually introduced my husband and I. He was 52 years old and he died of COVID in January. And we're cyclists and he was a big part of our cycling club. Some of you may know him, Ed. And this was a tree on our cycling route where we created a memorial for Ed, and it's Ed's tree to this moment. So it's to this day. So it's absolutely wonderful because every time we go past, everybody salutes Ed and everyone goes, "Hi, Ed." It's just those little moments that give your heart peace or allow you to find some kind of meaning in what it is that we're going through. I spoke to you about the positive realism. It's not going, everything's wonderful, everything's optimistic. We have to have optimism, otherwise we can't move forward. But we need to be realistic about what is. And the positivity about, say, COVID, for example, is not that it's going to go away, okay? And not that the planet is going to clear. That's not, because we don't know that. But the positive realism is that whatever is, and I have the choice to how I navigate that. The Taj Mahal story, I love the Indian Shah Jahan, who lost his wife after 14 births. Can you imagine? She finally died in childbirth. And he built the Taj Mahal. It took 22 years. He used 20,000 artisans, 1,000 elephants. But this was the way he found the purpose and meaning through his grief process, because he loved her so much and he was so broken through it. So as Viktor Frankl says, Viktor Frankl, who lost all of his family in the Holocaust, he was in the Auschwitz, is in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He says, we have no control over the external reality. We only have a choice about how we respond to that reality. So, in the words of the Dalai Lama, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. And if you want to be happy, practice compassion. Thank you, everyone. So happy to take some questions or sharing or wherever you guys want to go.
Well, Colleen, thank you, first of all, from us all. The session was really great and I've learned a lot. I mean, I've got 4 pages with them. And it's amazing to whatever you say, how it resonates throughout someone's life. I mean, if I think of moments and experiences, I'm like, okay, now I understand why I felt like that. And you gave us tools to go back to that and to come out of it better. So thank you very much. Listen, everyone, is there anyone with questions? Please come up and say thank you. Raise your hand just to say thank you or whatever you want to do. We're going to give some time. Julie saying, thank you so much, Colleen. You're such an inspirational person, and your words are so meaningful. That's true.
Thank you.
And Julie, good luck with your mom in hospital with COVID. We'll all be praying for her, and please keep us up to date. Good luck with that.
Okay. Well, I'm here, so if anyone wants to ask anything, anyone wants to get some deeper insights about anything we spoke about today.
Anybody?
I shocked you all into silence.
Tamara has a question.
Yes, I'll go again. I just think that, like Santal was saying, how it takes you back in life moments. And I feel that I went through some big things in my life, and I was in a bit of a dark place at one point. And to be honest, I actually learned from those experiences. And as a person, I think you have to learn from those experiences and grow from them and take from them. And most importantly, pass on what you've learned from those experiences. I feel it was a gift for me to be able to pass it on to my loved ones and friends, just to help in any way that I could, just to get them out of the hole that they may have been in.
Yeah, so it's your difficult experiences that has given you compassion. I'm just always very careful when people are going through anything difficult to not do this is here for a reason, or what do you need to learn, and because I actually do two things. I do grief counseling and grief coaching. Okay, so basically, grief counseling is when a person is in the experience. They don't want to think about meaning and purpose. They don't want to move on. They don't want to find a reason why this happened, and now I'm going to start.
They need compassion.
Exactly. But then there is a time where it's, okay, now how can we move on? How can we make sense of this terrible thing that happened, or the traumatic thing that happened? And
I just needed love at the time. Love and support.
But the truth of the matter is it is there for a purpose, okay? It does allow us. But by the way, it also, that bottom of the curve, okay, we need to be able to be present with people that are experiencing it. But sometimes people choose not to emerge. Sometimes people fall off the edge of the curve. And as my brother committed suicide, he fell off the edge of the curve. No matter how you try to rescue him, he couldn't be rescued. And that just was his journey through this world. I'm not saying that you want that to happen, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be the biggest support for people who go to that kind of depth. But it is sometimes not within your control.
100% agreed. And thank you so much. Sorry, just to add, thank you so much. I love your sessions.
Thank you.
We really have a lot of comments, Colleen. You have to read through all of that, because it's amazing to see what this session has done for everyone. It's you've given them tools and insightful, and it's helpful. And what else is there? Thank you. I love this one from Pumla, going, in the beginning of the session, you said you're never too old to start something new. And that is so true. I mean, please just confirm for me. So all that triathlons, marathons, Kilimanjaro, Everest, all of that happened after 40. Am I correct in saying that? And you are now 55.
Yeah, and I mean, now I travel, I've got all these ridiculous degrees. And by the way, I'm not very bright either. I've actually failed standard 9. But I learned about the brain. I learned about how to use my brain better at the age of 40. You know, do you know what I did before that? I traveled the world. Yeah, absolutely. Before that, I was a beautician. I had a beauty salon from home for 20 years. That's what I did. You know, but then I did have a traumatic life event, another one. I had many. It was like, just, I have to step into purpose now. I have to step into purpose, and kind of started to explore and discover all these things and live the better part of my best life, as opposed to how I'd been limiting myself before that. And that's why I'm so passionate.
That's really interesting for me. I actually cannot picture you running a beauty salon from your house.
I can't than I am now, and had no confidence, no self-worth, absolutely none. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I know what's possible for people, and I know that every person has got the capacity for so much more than we are so limited by the narratives that we carry in our head from our childhoods and our cultures and the conditioned experiences that we've had. And we need to liberate ourselves from those narratives with better narratives, actually.
I really don't want to bring it back now to iTech and our company and whatever, but I mean, if all of the ladies on this group can step into purpose, just think of what an impact it will make, not only for your personal life and your husband, your kids, and you, if you're single, just for you, but if you step into purpose, what a transformation ITEC can go through. I mean, that's incredible in my mind to think that if we can all just step into purpose and be support to each other and help each other and have compassion for each other and have compassion for all the men that we're working with, because hell, they need a lot of compassion. But what it can mean for ITEC, it's absolutely amazing. Yeah. So thank you.
And you know what, actually, I just realized you're going to have to invite me back again, Zantel. I didn't talk about self-compassion a lot.
No problem. You're back. You're welcome.
But that is the greatest skill that you can ever develop, is compassion for self. Because when you have compassion for self, it enables you to have compassion for other people. It changes your life. When you stop beating up on yourself and telling yourself how bad you are and how you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't feel that, okay, be compassionate to self. It's the life skill beyond all life skills. And for some reason, do we teach it? No, don't understand. Okay.
Any other questions, anyone? Anything you have on the hot seat?
I just want to say from my side, what stood out for me was speaking about the horizontal line and being above or below the line. And when you said, where do you build character and where do you grow? And I'm actually in that process at the moment. I've got some stuff in my personal life that I literally just didn't know how to deal with. And it is stuff that has, for a couple of years now, caused me a lot of pain, but I have grown tremendously through that pain. And I've actually also now started studying the brain because I find it fascinating. I want to know what makes people think the way that they do and why do they do the things that they do, because I feel like that's the only way that I'm going to understand this person that I'm dealing with, and it's going to make me a better person to be able to deal with them. And not only that, my son's almost a teenager, and that is just a crazy time. Yeah, I love him to bits.
And there's teenage brains, okay, just be warned.
Very different. Very different. So I think it's going to help not only me understand myself better, but also just deal with people better, because people are so very different and think differently and behave differently. So it's fascinating.
Thank you.
And I think your talk as well, your first talk when you went through the brain and explained everything, just got me even more interested. It's really, really interesting.
It's a lot more where that came from, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, ladies, let's go pack the last few hours of this Friday, make it count, and yeah, be safe and have a lovely Women's Day on Monday, public holiday, spend it with people you love and just relax, and we'll see you back on Tuesday. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Colleen. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Zantel. Namaste.
Thank you, Colleen.
Namaste. Bye. Bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks, Colleen. Enjoy your day.